Hello viewers, today in this lecture, I will tell you about the two very important musical terms, Thaat and Rag. I think everyone would be familiar with the word Rag. Rag is the base of Indian music. In fact, Indian music is revealed through rags or presented through rags. Before going into the detailed study of rags, we must know that every rag belongs to a scale, which is termed as Thaat. That means each rag evolves from one or the other Thaat or scale, which is also known as the parent scale of that particular rag. So it is essential to know about the term Thaat first. A Thaat is a series of 7 swars or notes in ascending order, beginning from Sa, the key note of octave. Thaat or the parent scale was known as males or male kartas by our medieval music scholars. Pandit Ahobal, the author of Sangeet Parijat in 17th century, has defined male or Thaat as Mele Swar Samu Syat Rag Vyanjan Shaktiman, which means male or Thaat is a combination of swar or notes, which is capable of producing rags. Every rag in Indian music evolves from one of the scales. That is why in Hindustani music, Thaat has been termed as Janak, the one who produces, or the parent scale, and Rag is known as Janya, the one who is produced. Thus, Thaat and Rag seem to be having the parent and child-like relationship. In the later part of the 17th century, South Indian music scholar Pandit Venkatmukhi for the first time introduced the system of Thaats in Indian music, and later it was adopted in Hindustani music too. Not irrelevant to mention that in India, two separate systems of music prevail. One is Carnatic or South Indian music, and the other is Hindustani or Northern Indian music. But both the systems are derived from the same tradition. Pandit Venkatmukhi, the author of Chaturdandi Prakashika in 17th century, introduced the system of 72 males or Thaats from 7 Shuddh and 5 Vikriswar, which was absolutely based on mathematical calculation. According to him, maximum 72 primary scales or the parent scale are possible from the 12 notes on the basis of mathematical calculation. Hence, Pandit Venkatmukhi is known for his male rag Vargikaran in Indian music. In Hindustani music, the system of Thaat was introduced by Pandit Vishnu Narayan Bhatkhande in the early 20th century. Pandit Bhatkhande, who is an authority on Hindustani music, adopted 10 Thaats out of these 72 males or Thaats, a parent scales for Hindustani music. Pandit Bhatkhande proposed a different arrangement to classify Hindustani rags, which differs from Carnatic system of music. He is of the opinion that these 10 Thaats are sufficient to cover all the rags of Hindustani music. This system of 10 Thaats to classify all the Northern Indian rags, known as Thaat Rag Paddhati, has gained fairly wide acceptance, and it is prevalent till today. all the prevalent rags in Hindustani music have been classified in the 10 thats of Pandit Bhatkhande. So we need to know about these thats in detail. Before describing the 10 primary thats prevalent in Hindustani music and their corresponding rags, we need to know the essential conditions or the rules laid down in making of these 10 thats. So let me first talk about these rules. The first rule is that must have all the 7 notes of the scale. As I said earlier, that rags evolve from that. And there are many rags in Hindustani music which are of Sampuran Jati or heptatonic, which use a complete scale of 7 notes. If that does not possess all the 7 notes of the scale, it will not be possible to produce the rag of Sampuran Jati. The next is all the 7 swars or notes should be in their proper order, like sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha and ni. That is not possible without such an arrangement. The swar may be komal, that is flat, or tivra, that is sharp, in a that, but the order remains the same. The next is, in a that, shuddha and komal or tivra, that is flat or sharp notes, that is the 2 notes of the same swar cannot come just one after the other. Though in Carnatic Sangeet Paddhati, it is possible. But in Hindustani Sangeet Paddhati, 2 notes of the same denomination are not allowed in a that. The next rule is, in a that, only aroha, that is ascending order, is essential. It is quite possible to recognize a that from aroha only. Avroha, that is descending order, may not be essential. The next, it is not necessary for a that that it should be having the elements to please the listeners. Next is, a that is named after its corresponding rag. For example, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni. These are the notes of rag Bilaval, having all the shuddha swars, and thus these are the swars of Bilaval that. Thus, Kalyan, Khamaj, Kafi, etc., all the 10 thats have been named on the same principle. Such rags are known as Ashray Rag in Hindustani music. Now, the 10 thats of Hindustani music. As I have stated earlier, in 17th century, the South Indian music scholar Pandit Venkatmukhi introduced the system of 72 primary scales or thats in Indian music, known as males. Out of these 72 males, Pandit Vishnu Narayan Bhatkhande, an authority on Hindustani music system, accepted 10 thats for Hindustani music. He was of the opinion that these 10 thats were sufficient to cover all the rags in vogue in Hindustani music. These 10 thats are known as Pandit Bhatkhande's 10 that. Thus, the names and the swars of these 10 thats I will explain in detail. The first that is Bilaval that. This scale consists all the swars as shuddha swar. For example, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, all shuddha swar. Next is Kalyan that. In this that, all the notes except ma are shuddha. Only ma note is tivra, that is sharp. The notes of this that are sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni with ma tivra. Next is Khamaj Thaat. Ni swar is komal, that is flat in this thaat. Or we can say all the notes except Ni are Shuddh in this thaat. Hence the notes of this thaat are Sa Re Ga Ma Pa Dha Ni with Ni komal. The next is Kafi Thaat. Ga and Ni notes are komal, that is flat in this thaat. Rest all the notes are Shuddh. Hence the notes of this thaat are Sa Re Ga Ma Pa Dha Ni with Ga and Ni komal. The next thaat is Asavri Thaat. Ga, Dha and Ni notes are komal, that is flat in this thaat. Rest all the notes are Shuddh. Hence the notes of Asavri Thaat are Sa Re Ga Ma Pa Dha Ni with Ga, Dha and Ni komal. The next is Bhairavi Thaat. In this thaat, Re, Ga, Dha and Ni notes are komal. So the notes of Bhairavi Thaat are Sa Re Ga Ma Pa Dha Ni with Re, Ga, Dha, Ni komal. The next is Bhairav Thaat. Re and Dha notes are komal and rest all the notes are Shuddh in this thaat. The notes of Bhairav Thaat are Sa Re Ga Ma Pa Dha Ni with Re and Dha komal. The next is Purvi Thaat. Re and Dha notes are komal and Ma is Tivra and rest of the notes are Shuddh in this thaat. Hence the notes of Purvi Thaat are Sa Re Ga Ma Pa Dha Ni with Re, Dha komal and Ma Tivra. Next is Marva Thaat. Re note is komal, that is flat, and Ma note is Tivra, that is sharp, and rest of the notes are Shuddh. The notes of Marva Thaat are Sa Re Ga Ma Pa Dha Ni with Re komal and Ma Tivra. And the last one is Todi Thaat. Re, Ga, Dha notes are komal and Ma is Tivra in Todi Thaat. So the notes of this thaat are Sa Re Ga Ma Pa Dha Ni with Re, Ga, Dha komal and Ma Tivra. Amongst the above said 10 thaat, Bilawal Thaat is taken as Shuddh Thaat in Hindustani music. The term which I am going to explain next is Rag. Rag is the base of Indian music. Indian music is revealed through rags. In fact, in Indian music, Naad or sound is said to be the base of all music. Naad fabricates Shruti. Shruti forms Swar. Swar gives shape to Saptak. Saptak forms Thaat. And from Thaat, Rag is evolved. So Rag is that form which presents the Indian music. In old Indian Sanskrit text, Rag has been defined as Ranjati iti Raga, which means which colors the mind is a rag. Just as a painter paints a blank canvas with colors and forms, so is the human mind, which can be colored or affected by the pleasing and soothing sounds, having the capability of pleasing the minds of the listeners. The word rag has been found in Brihadeshi of Pandit Matang in the 7th century for the first time, And since then, it has been defined in various ways by the forthcoming music scholars. But not even a single definition gives the exact and the accurate picture of Indian term rag in its present sense. However, in the Sanskrit text Abhinav Ragamanjari, rag has been defined as Yoyan Dhvani Visheshtu Swarvarana Vibhushata Ranchko Janchitana Sara Kathita Buddhe, which means such a peculiar combination of swar and varans having the capability of pleasing the minds of the listeners is known as rag by the intellectuals. According to this definition, 2 points are very clear. A rag should be having swar and varans, and with their combination, it should be capable of pleasing the minds of the listeners. There is no such fixed number of rags in Indian music. But as I stated earlier, every rag belongs to a peculiar thought or scale. And Pandit Venkat Mukhi, the South Indian music scholar in 17th century, has introduced the method of 72 males or thoughts on the basis of mathematical calculation. Just as Pandit Venkat Mukhi introduced the method of thoughts, in the same manner, he has presented the method of inventing rags from thoughts on the mathematical calculations. He has presented the method of 484 rags from each thought, and thus 34,848 rags from 72 thoughts. Theoretically, such a huge number of rags may be possible, but practically, all of these rags cannot be melodious. In Hindustani music, the number of rags produced from the 10 thoughts is very less. There are only about 200 rags in Hindustani music, which are most often used by the musicians to perform. But even amongst those, some are popular rags and rest of these are not in vogue. Now, instead of going into the practical aspect of rags, I will elaborate its theoretical aspect. Theoretically, it's essential to know about the principles or the rules laid down for Hindustani rags. In the ancient times, there were 10 principles for rags. In fact, in the ancient times, Jati Gayan was in vogue instead of rag. And the 10 lakshans or the principles laid down for Jati Gayan were Graha, Ansh, Nyas, Apnyas, Audvatva, Shadvatva, Alpatva, Bahotva, Mandra and Tar. These 10 lakshans of Jati Gayan were followed strictly in the ancient time. But in the present day's Rag Gayan, some rules are followed, but some principles like Graha, Nyas and Apnyas do not carry their old significance. In the present day Rag Gayan system, we do follow certain rules laid down for it, which may be termed as principles or the rules of rags. So now I am going to explain the rules of rags. The first rule is a rag must belong to any thought, that is the parent scale, from which the rag is produced. A rag must have at least 5 notes. Any composition which comprises less than 5 notes is not considered a rag. In every Indian rag, sa is the key note. The sa note cannot be dropped in any rag. In a rag, the notes namely ma and pa are not allowed to be dropped together at the same time, because as stated earlier, the whole octave is divided into two parts, Purvang and Uttarang. Ma and Pa, these two notes come in both the parts, Purvang as well as Uttarang. Thus, these two common notes in both the parts are not allowed to be omitted at the same time in any rag. In a rag, as a rule, two notes of the same denomination, such as Shuddh and Komal or Tivra, should not come just one after the other consecutively. For example, Shuddh and Komal Re, Shuddhga and Komalga, Tivrma and Shuddhma, Shuddha and Komaldha, similarly Shuddhni and Komalni. Yet some rags are there in Hindustani music which do not abide by this rule. There are some exceptions like Rag Kedar, Hamir, Behag, Khamaj, Purvi, Pilu and Lalit etc., which take both Ma, Ni, Ga or Re on certain other conditions. The next rule is a rag must possess Arroh and Avroh, that is ascending and descending order both, because a rag is not revealed completely merely from its Arroh. Arroh and Avroh are necessarily required for the complete a rag formation. Similarly, it is must for a rag to have fixed Vadi and definite Samvadi notes. Vadi and Samvadi swar carry a lot of importance in any rag. About Vadi and Samvadi, I have given a detailed information in my lecture exclusively on Vadi, Samvadi, Anuvadi and Vivadi. Last but the most important for a rag is a rag must appeal and please the listeners. As stated earlier, the root word in Sanskrit for rag is ranj, which means to please. In our Sanskrit text, a rag has been defined as Ranjati iti raga, which too means that a rag must have the capability to please the listeners. Ranjko Janchitana, definition 2 reveals that which colors the mind or pleases the human mind is rag. I end up my lecture with the beautiful words from Pandit Ravi Shankar, the great sitar maestro, which he has mentioned in his book, My Music, My Life. A rag is a definite, scientific, subtle, aesthetic, melodic form made up of series of notes within the octave, each one different from every other and distinguished by its own particular sequence of notes, number of tones, ascending and descending order, most prominent notes, notes of different lengths, characteristic phrases and principal moods. It is a melodic base in Indian classical music on which the musician improvises in any style, for any duration and in any tempo, either as a solo or accompanied by a drum, and it may have the composed bass, song or instrumental gat. The aforesaid words by Pandit Ravi Shankar present an accurate and complete and the beautiful picture of Indian rag and the rules of rag too. Thank you.